time.
It's alive.
Hey.
Who's it being streamed to?
So send an email, like if you want to send it and watch yourself be streamed.
Yeah.
You go to Frankfurt
Don't do it.
Publishing or something.
Don't do it. Don't watch yourself.
I'm about to put the camera underneath my desk. Yeah, wink, wink, nudge, nudge. Know what I mean? Know what I mean? Everybody's got the Gordon hair dude going on straight up.
Rise and
Straight up
shine.
until it goes down.
All right, what are we doing?
What
What's
are
the
we
book, Baggio Books? Baggio Books, Gordo. What's the book today? What's the book that you were supposed to read?
What are we booking?
Well, as I recall, the book that comes out of the bag was supposed to be my job to read, so I did try to read it. For those of you that missed last week, we reached into the bag of books and we pulled out Marge Piercy. He, she, and it.
Ooh. Oh, yeah.
Yeah, oldie but
Nuts. I love Marge. Well, you know, Jack Rabbit's name comes from Marge Piercy.
Yeah.
But that's Woman on the Edge of Time, not he, she, it. Anybody know?
There's
Has anyone
20
read?
years between the two.
Oh, yeah? You know, I actually wrote to Marge Piercy because I wanted to interview her about 3 years ago.
Oh, yeah.
In part, I wrote to her because I wanted to, you know, tell her that she was a big influence on us. And she was, you know, a much older woman, and she had written a book of poems, and it was like one of her last. And I wanted to interview her about Woman on the Edge of Time. And she was like, why would you ask me about a book I wrote 45 years, 45 years ago? I'm not interested in talking about that. You want to interview me about my poetry book? I'm down. And so she gave me the hand. She was like, I don't want to talk to you.
She gave you the Heisman. That's brutal.
Yeah.
But Gordo, what's the book? Talk to us. Did you get to it?
Yeah,
Did you read anything?
Well, I put a lot of time in this week. I think I maybe read 4 pages, but I was trying to catch up. You know, I was trying to catch up with where I'd left off because for whatever reason I stopped reading it. I guess maybe about 70 pages in. As I recollect correctly, it was Scott's recommendation. It's pretty good. I think I'm going to try to finish it. You know, I usually come on and crack on the books, but it's funny, the one word you mentioned, poetry. Usually the poets are pretty good with the, you know, like it doesn't go the other way. Like if you write prose, doesn't mean you're a good poet. But if you're a poet, usually your prose is pretty good. At least that's been my experience.
Give us one example.
Well, there's Marge Piercy, for example. She's pretty poetic with her prose, but yeah, it's like there's just different word choices. It's just better structure. I mean, it's more interesting. But yeah, I tried to read both of her books. Woman on the Edge of Time, I think, was on the original list of top 100. And this one came in from Scott, you know, and we were trying to rank them on the list. And I had he, she, and it on there. It's tough, right? Because you can only, I mean, these are our arbitrary rules we made up, but you can only have one book from each writer. So then it's like, all right, well, which one from her do we cater to the fact that, you know, Jack Rabbit got his name out of there? Or do we more look at it like from her perspective and say, well, you know, the book I wrote in 1991 is probably a little bit better than the book I wrote in 1968 or whatever it was.
What I understand about her is that she was really serious in the 60s. You know, I mean, she was one of those, you know, warriors. She was a hippie warrior, you know, and she decided that she was going to attack it with words. You know, and so I don't know. I haven't read He, She, It. I imagine it's about identity on some level. But Woman on the Edge of Time is like one of the 5 books that I've ever read where they really try to posit a utopia. How does a utopia work? And it's brilliant, and it's a lot of work she had to do to develop and build out a world where everything was kind of considered. One of the things that she did was in the story, they don't have birth out of a body. They actually grow the children, in like outside of the body, so that when the baby comes out, that the mother doesn't over protect and over identify with the child, and the child has like 6 parents. So it was like she was really thinking about like, well, what is the problem and how do I solve it? One of the big problems is, a mother over identifies with the child. She can't help it. So it's like there's a lot of thought going in there to try and figure out, well, how do I save the world with my words? So I don't know what the topic is of he, she, it, but for sure, in Woman on the Edge of Time, she was like, there's a character who is the bottom of the barrel, like a Puerto Rican woman who's got out of an insane asylum, is being beaten up by her ex-lover. Her daughter is abusive too, and abused as well. And then she gets like this direct telepathic connection with someone in this utopic future, and so she was like identifying like, here's the worst of our world, and here's a world where there's the best, or the best I could think of, So,
has anybody else read any of these books?
Nope.
No Marge Piercy fans in the crowd. Your brother said he was on there with. Your brother said he was on there with on Facebook with her.
Yeah. We opened a communication. I wrote to her and told her that she saved our lives, and she wrote back. So that was cool.
Well, that's pretty cool.
So how'd she save your lives? That's interesting.
Well, in a way, I mean, she gave us like when Rabbit read it, we were out on the streets, and it was, I think even before we met John. And he was
Jackrabbit, right?
Yeah, because by the time he met John, he was already Jackrabbit. So hello, he's now a part of the conversation. Hello.
You missed it, Frazier.
Neat lady.
Frazier's always got the dogs going.
So saved us how? I guess it gave young Jason Pollock a viewpoint on, whoa, there is a possibility of saving this world that I'm terrified of, and that was this character Jackrabbit, who had gone into an insane asylum, or is
that where Jackrabbit comes from, huh?
Yeah, there was a character named Jackrabbit who was basically this brilliant artist who had gone mad, completely crazy. And in their society, they let them go crazy. Like, go into this place, and they allowed him to go completely nuts. And then when he came back, he was a valuable part of the community. And I think that let Jackrabbit go like, oh, there's a possibility for me.
Right? That's cool.
That is cool.
All righty. Should we let Matt in, or should we keep him out?
What? Don't let him in.
Don't let Matt in? Thumbs up, thumbs down?
John Madden?
He's gonna watch
let
it.
him in.
He's gonna
I
watch
can hear
it.
you guys.
Is he watching? Are you watching
I
already?
can hear you guys.
I need more coffee. You're live on the stage. We just learned how Jackrabbit got his name. I'll be right back.
What about Paradox?
Well, you should ask if, since I'm telling you Jackrabbit's name, you should ask him how I got my name. It's kind of unfair
funny.
that I'm representing him anyway.
Oh, that's funny.
Well, he wouldn't represent himself.
That's true.
He would just make up something fake.
It's true. Or just deflect, defer, and ask a question about you.
That's
what I would
awesome.
Yeah, I mean, one of the subject that makes sense to me just out of her writing, Marge Piercy, is like, are there any other utopic writers? Any other writers who try to pose a story about a positive world? I mean, obviously in Woman on the Edge of Time, it's a world in conflict, but the inside of the world was her best version of what a utopia might be. Are there any other stories that anyone's ever read ever where they try to pose a story where things really are worked out in a better way than the world we live in?
Right.
Well, you know, Draft Daddy likes Brave New World, man.
I was
There's
just about
film
to say
for that.
people really don't like it when I say that though. They think it's a dystopia, but I think Brave New World is a utopian book.
Nice.
I think it's awesome. I've heard people say that the Culture series is utopian. The Consider Phoebus and all this, but I only read the first book of that.
Interesting.
I think the line between utopia and dystopia is very fine. It's really like in the eye of the beholder.
One person's utopia is a different person's dystopia. So,
yeah. Or there are these books I remember from, maybe the 1800s or 1900s. This woman named Caroline, I forget her name, but she wrote this one called Herland, and it was like this isolated female population in the mountains somewhere, and it's like people would say that's utopia, but it's like they're just like an isolated tribe, you know. It's like, what's so utopian about that? I don't know.
Yeah, the only other ones that
there's the other aspect of utopias.
Charlotte,
what was that?
Well, you know, the other aspect of utopias is that they all die out, right? The Shakers and the Quakers and all these people that pursued a utopian vision usually dies out after a couple generations. So there's something about even what you would call progressive society usually eventually has a negative birth rate. So it's this defect or whatever of utopian societies is that they die out.
Yeah, or they need to be protected from the rest of everybody somehow. I saw Kim Stanley Robinson's Aurora listed as a utopia. That's the one about the generation ship.
Oh, that's interesting.
Generation ship that's like in outer space where it's like a closed system kind of thing.
Yeah. So it's this big ship takes 500,000 years to get to where it's going, and the people are alive for it. They're not frozen or anything, but the ship goes through a lot during this time period. There's systems start failing, and people don't always make it, and by the end, Aurora is just like a tiny little ship with maybe 2 people on it or something. I don't really remember the details, but the ship can reconfigure itself in certain ways to stop the bleeding here, stop the bleeding there.
Right.
It really talks about also
You read that one, didn't you, G?
That one, I thought that one was a good one.
It talks a lot about how this how when you keep species of animals in zoos, they change. It's like this, they get smaller, they get less aggressive, and it's like if you did this to humans over 1,000 years, they would change too, and they would get smaller, and they would get I don't know, different sort of immunities would go away, how it's not good for people to be locked up in a silo or a generation ship, that it would eventually collapse on itself without this lifeline of replenishment of extra supplies or soil or whatever it is you need, you know.
I mean, is the position there that only conflict creates procreation? It's only when we're in conflict that people want to procreate to protect their family? Is that the thesis that is kind of being spoken out there?
I mean, that's a really interesting idea.
You make a good point, though. You know, where the stories.
You can go, Gordon.
Well, that's definitely one thing that I like
I'm
about.
all lagging.
When we're online, we're so much more polite. It's ridiculous.
I know. I love it. I love it.
Yeah. Yeah, I think
So,
that needs
I
to be
mean, I've been
more-
thinking about
more
that idea.
confusing here.
I've been thinking about that idea in one of my own writings. If it wasn't like if Darwinism isn't the right way to get to explain human behavior, is there another way to explain it, like through empathy or kindness or whatever? And I don't really know that Aurora gets too deep into that. I just think they just think it's unsustainable. It's just these things are these utopian societies. They're always like locked away and they're isolated. And if you have like you're like it's like heaven. We have the whole family up in the Ozark Mountains or whatever. And like eventually, like you run out of a key supply or something, you know.
Right.
And it's more like you need people rather than people need other people. You can't just be like by yourself with your own little tribe and think that that's going to work forever, you know.
Right.
And is that almost like a metaphor for America and immigration? Like America can't sustain without like immigrants?
So I don't know what Kim Stanley Robinson made that if he would go that far politically, but people are free to draw their own conclusions. I do think if we're going wide with it, there is like this idea of sub replacement fertility in most first world countries, and that capitalists don't really like that because capitalism is based on like the idea of infinite growth, which we all know is probably not likely. So yeah, I definitely think there's something there, but Kim Stanley Robinson is a very like environmental dude. He's usually about the sustainability of the. If he's making a point, it's usually about the environment. He's a professor at UC Davis.
He lives in Vermont.
Yeah.
Does he have
he lives in
got a
UC
new
Davis.
book out?
I don't know what his recent book is. He's up to something.
I mean, what book are you talking about?
Aurora. We were talking about
okay.
utopian societies. If you could think of any other utopian societies besides Marge Piercy.
I haven't read that. Well, I wonder. So,
Well, the other problem with telling a story about a utopian society is there's no conflict, right?
The conflict comes from somebody just showing up and being like, "Hi, I'm from the real world."
Well, so Asimov had that series where he's got a cop, an Earthling cop that teams up with a robot.
iRobots.
And I forget. And no, well, I forget. I think it's The Naked Sun or something, where the utopian society is. There's like 5,000 people on an entire planet, and like 50 million robots. Like the people never see each other. They just have these giant estates, and they view, right? And viewing's different, right? It's a perfect society. They walk around naked because there's nothing wrong with seeing each other naked or whatever viewing. But if you go and see somebody face to face, even in clothing, that's like a horrible thing. It's you know.
Oh yeah, that was interesting.
You know, and he goes there because of a murder. Like, how do you have a murder, right? Robots can't murder. You don't see each other, so.
Well, that reminds me of what was that Doris Lessing book that we read early on and everybody hated because it was so depressing or something. What the fuck was that called?
Was it Wool?
No.
I had trouble with Wool.
Fuck. You had a problem
or something like that.
You had a problem with Wool? What?
Yeah, I thought that was the one where they were in the silos underground. And
Yeah. Uh-huh.
That was not Doris Lessing.
That was definitely not Doris Lessing.
Is Wool the one that did that get made into that show Silo?
Yeah. Same story.
Messed up Silo. Did you guys watch that? That was messed up.
Yeah, I did. I liked it.
Oh, you should totally watch that, Paradox. It's awesome. It's a good streaming, like when you're for your 80-hour flight back to Bali or wherever, you stick that puppy on.
Docs, have you haven't seen Wool yet?
I haven't seen Silo.
It's the same lady. It's the lady who plays Jessica in Dune.
Mm.
She's
I can't
so
remember her
good.
name now.
Oh my god, I love her.
Yeah, I could watch her read the phone book. Really.
Rebecca Ferguson.
Ferguson, yeah.
Oh, that's
Yeah,
awesome.
Shikasta. That's what it was
And
called.
Common's in it too.
Oh, Jesus Christ, Shikasta?
Yeah, Doris Lessing Shikasta. That was and there was like this it was called the substance of we feeling.
Substance
And
of
I-
we fearing.
And it was like, so you have this like trans solar system alien race that's like so advanced, and they're just like overseeing Earth and stuff like that. And there's like this substance of we that they talk about, that she talks about in the book. And it's like, as and that's what like connects us all. It's the substance of we, and that because there's so many people on the planet, that we have less of this substance of we, because it's being shared. So it's like, because it's like this finite resource, this substance of we. And so the more people that there are, the more people share it, and that the less of it there is, kind of thing. And that's where our problems come from, is that we have less of a substance of we. And so it sounds like this other thing that you're talking about.
Is it?
And I think that there's a truth to it, right? Because if you're looking at it as biological evolution, right? So human beings, we evolved to be kind of like very social, right? We're hypersocial animals, right? But we're also hypersocial animals in various small groups. And so, here you have the Industrial Revolution and modern civilization, where like in the evolutionary blink of an eye, we're dealing with like situations that we weren't evolutionarily primed to be able to handle.
So I can treat 8 people
So
well.
it's like,
I can treat like
supposed to be.
I can treat 8 people really, really well,
Right.
but if I now have to include 8 billion people, fuck you.
No utopia. No
possibility.
The idea of like a utopia being a smaller group of people is actually like evolutionarily makes sense.
Well-
like the idea that more people or people coming in from outside would be a problem, that actually makes a lot of sense evolutionarily.
I
Well,
can't believe you can do 8.
You can look at it right, because as people leave poverty and enter middle
only do
class,
one.
they have less kids, right? I mean, you see that, right? So, and you see the demographics of Western civilizations in Japan and China and stuff like that. Their demographics are actually dropping, right? Their populations are dropping. You only can support so many people. Oh, and I just
Rabbit, do you remember in Marge Piercy, to get back to Marge Piercy, in Women on the Edge of Time, the utopia she posited was that every single region had people that were scientists and, dedicated to the details of each ecological group. Like, every ecological area had people that were
Really,
dedicated.
I don't remember that.
Yeah. So they were trading people, because each area provided a different resource. And so like each area had like basically geneticists and scientists, ecological scientists who were like dedicated to that region. And if you wanted to, and that region also had a culture. So like, the people of this area were, focused on preserving the culture of the Algonquin or the Ohlone Indians. And that's why the people renamed themselves when they came of age. It wasn't just like, that wasn't everywhere in the society. That was just in the place where they lived. And so it was like, this is just supporting the statement of what we're talking about, where it's like the small group, each small group took one ecological niche, where they were dedicated to that area and that place. And those people grew together and worked together. And if you wanted to go outside of that, if you wanted to bring other people in, you had to deal with that community, So I remember there was one person they had traded, and it was just like maybe like 3 or 4 paragraphs that talked about it. But it was like one person was coming into the community and they were like, oh, this is a big deal, and it kind of indicates what you're talking about, where it's like, this small group of people, we can take care of ourselves. But there's also a group of people over there that are doing the same thing. And we're in a network, We're in a decentralized network of people who are all doing that. You know, and that was her position on like what the utopia would be. Do you remember that part of the story?
Not so much. I mean, like I mean, yeah. I think it makes sense. It's definitely consistent with what we're talking about. Hey, what is up, Mike? Welcome to the stream.
Let Mike in. Come on. Jeez,
Hello,
Louise.
boys.
Yeah, I thought we had standards.
Yeah. No scarring and shaving. Or
I hope
fucking
I hope the standards don't mean like timeliness, because I'd be way out.
Oh my God. We already called out.
I'm sorry, I just felt like I had to pile on for no real reason.
Yeah, but
We're
why are you
pants.
out and shaved, dude? It's Saturday.
I know, Saturday.
Well, luckily the standards also don't mean that we have to stay for the whole time, because I'm prepping for 2 shows today. It's the double feature of the
Nice.
Ramayana. So I'm gonna bug out.
Did you guys
but-
talk? Did y'all talk about when they're coming to see the show?
Yeah, can we have a
Well,
promo sort of
that's-
logistical?
That's what I wanted.
Tomorrow.
That's what I wanted to ask, Docs, because it seemed like there was. I looked it up, and there was other performances at like 3 and 5, and there's all this other kind of stuff, and then the looks like all
When do you want us
the
to? When do you want?
like when would be a good time to show up and start, you know, get some of the other experiences and in the time for your show.
I mean, you know, like come whenever. Just make it. I would say come a little bit early if you're gonna go. If you're gonna do the day show today, be there by tomorrow.
Yeah.
Yeah, then just show up by like 6 or 5:30 or something. You know, see what's going on, and then our show starts at 7:30.
Cool.
Yeah, and it's I guess tomorrow's closing day. Amazing. Yeah, we got 2 shows today, and then 1 show tomorrow, and that's it. And you know, next time we talk, I'd love to share about being inside of a story. Like this is, you know, like basically living the Ramayana. And there's like a crazy thing about being inside the story and learning about it by like watching it over and over and over again. I don't know. It's a pretty profound experience. But yeah, guys, I'm gonna bug. But
Break a leg.
Dude, break a leg, man.
thank you. And
Have
I'll
fun.
see you guys tomorrow
Yeah,
night.
totally.
Yeah.
Love you, man.
See you, man.
Love you too.
Love you
Sure.
back.
That's awesome. Bye. All right, folks, you heard it here. So next week we're going to hear from Paradox on what's it like to be inside the story.
That's
Is that
funny.
called acting?
Yeah, that's what that is. He's an actor.
But you know, when you get to a certain weight, you
I
can
thought I thought it'd be like a performer. Right? Doesn't do multiple things.
He does. He
I don't
does.
know what
He's
the
a
technical
performer.
classification is, but
Je ne sais pas. I don't know.
yeah. Sorry, G. I didn't get a
Did we
chance
get
call
to
you.
did we get to books already?
We're doing bag of books. Gordon actually likes this book and isn't gonna put it down. So, you know, he's gonna keep reading it. He spent most of the week trying to figure out
No
where he
need
left
to
off.
draw a new book.
Well, what was up with the book from last week?
I don't think you have to draw a new one if you like the one you have.
Yeah.
He spent the entire week trying to figure out where he stopped reading the
Exactly.
previous.
Listen, when we first started this, we learned the mistake of, all right, here's a book. Everybody read in a week. And we're like, well, you know, that's not going to happen. We're like kind of
Yeah,
more of
fuck
an
that.
easy flow.
So I told this guy I work with this. So I found out.
Well, I don't even want anyone else to read it, really.
I found this. I learned my neighbor around the corner is a big gamer like you guys, and he's got like closets of games. So, and a friend of his just bought a house down the road from him, so they're going to start gaming. And I said, "Oh, I know all these nerds. You guys can all come over here and game all to your heart's desire and swim, blah blah blah." He goes, "Yeah, how do you know these guys?" I said, "Oh, I just know them growing up. We have a sci-fi book club." I said, he goes, "What book are you reading?" I'm like, "It doesn't work that way."
Okay, that's funny.
Nobody
Doesn't work
reads
that
the
way.
same book.
Yeah.
That's really funny.
He goes, that doesn't sound like a book club. I'm like, well, it's,
It's evolved. It's
You're like,
evolved over the
you're-
years.
You're like, whatever.
Gordon likes to talk about the books he's reading, and the rest of us just laugh.
Well, I mean, I can give you guys my 90 seconds on Marge Piercy if you want it.
Oh,
Sure,
yeah.
Of course.
30 minutes in, why not?
Oh, yeah. But one thing Paradox said is he told us that's where the name Jackrabbit came
Like I
from.
said,
We
I
asked
spent
him
all week
where
trying to
does
figure out
Paradox
where I
came
dropped
from, and he
off.
said, ask Jackrabbit.
It's pretty intense view of the future.
Yeah.
What was the name of the book again? This one that you picked up last week?
I feel like Gordon's on a delay or
Is she in
something.
it?
Or he's
Yeah, there's
muted
some
or
weird
something.
delay that's something happening in here.
Yeah, definitely. Yeah. Yeah, we gotta like we need to start a GoFundMe to get Gordon a new
Gordon, your
computer.
computer
I
is
think
terrible.
Yeah, I'm agadacious, man.
Yeah,
It
man.
looks like his. Oh, did he disappear?
And now he's now
Might
he's
be.
off. He's
Looks like
he's
his. It also looked like his camera was covered in Vaseline.
disconnected. Yeah.
I think that's
Yeah,
on
that's,
purpose. That's to preserve his anonymity. That's on purpose.
Yeah.
But
That's a good point.
something's
That's a
wrong
good,
with his
actually, that's a good
internet, for
idea.
sure.
Yeah, definitely. Yeah, his internet's definitely a little bit
Look at
wily
it.
today.
I'll have to go over there and
It's a
do
shame.
an
We
IT
need
section.
that. We need that.
section.
Gordon
Would you, Mike?
wisdom.
Please, I'm begging you, Mike. Please, he's desperate for it, and he'll never
Actually,
he'll never
you
ask.
know what? I have a spare. I have my old webcam, which is still hot. I think it's still
I have
HD.
3 webcams. Is this for Gordon to actually become a grown up and have a real adult computer?
Well,
yes,
yeah,
that's
as long
what it
as
is.
yeah, but as long as
I'm still here, you know.
I see you. I have the
No.
audio.
Did
no.
he mute? Wait a minute. I don't see him.
I don't see
You
it.
won't.
No, I
don't
know
see it at all.
his
No, you're
camera's
not.
off. But that's the thing. You can with you.
The camera's
if
off,
you
but there's no
Fucking Christ, Gordon.
placeholder for them.
yeah.
Gordon.
I think I can. I
Oh
think I
my
can
god, you
change
can
that.
totally sneak in and like spy and sabotage
Gordo.
the whole.
Gordon, why don't you take one of your kids' fucking computers from 10 years ago? I mean, Jesus Christ, this thing would have been thrown out of the temple computer.
This is tech anger here coming from Frazier. Tech anger.
Oh,
What are you
it is.
doing? What are you doing?
Look at it. Rebooting. I'm doing this. My shit. You know,
Here we go.
But we're
Here we
talking
go.
about what he's
I changed the settings. I changed the settings.
and he's 30, and he's like, you know what? It's like he's on the moon. It's this big round trip, or he's like 30 seconds behind everybody. I'll give you a Chromebook.
That's really funny.
Yeah, and that's his little avatar. His little avatar now. That's actually the moon, and that's him on the moon.
That is fun.
Hey, did you hear what I said? What Paradox said?
All right,
when
so
you
where
were
were
off for
we?
a minute.
Oh yeah, yeah.
Got your name.
Paradox got his name from the Paradoxicon, which is some weird. It's like a book of paradoxes or something.
Oh, interesting.
And he was like, "Oh, paradox, yeah, that sounds like me," and that was it.
Oh, there you go.
I mean, yeah, I mean, like the whole name change thing came from that Marge Piercy book, that Woman on the Edge of Time, and
Yeah.
so that was where we had that came from. And then once I changed my name, little brother had to go ahead and do it for himself too. So
Oh, there you go.
that's where that came from. So it was a thing.
See,
It was a thing.
brothers always.
I mean, what else are you gonna do? You're fucking like, you're hanging out, a bunch of fucking punks, weirdos living on the street. It's like, oh yeah, let's just all change our names. Why not? Let's just do that. So
There you go.
that was our thing. I mean, Jesus Christ! Last week, didn't we tell you that we last week we told you that we'd spend our days making lists of like random actions to take. That was like, fucking rolled some dice and decide what we were gonna do next.
That
I mean,
was the funny thing I think I heard was you had 100-sided die. You just would roll and see what you do.
Yeah.
Shove it
I
in
mean,
your bunghole.
Printers in the back of the room.
fucking and all different things on it.
What was the funniest thing you had on the list?
Oh God,
Shit, I'm having internet issues too.
I thought Punch Jackrabbit was pretty funny. I don't know.
That's funny as shit. Why did you have to roll to get Punch Jackrabbit?
Here's something I'm having internet issues myself over here.
You should turn your video off. Yeah.
Or is it the website itself?
Well, yeah, it might be the.
I wonder if that's going to help anything.
Somebody actually saw us and did a denial
Kids.
on us.
We started out with a 20-sided die, and we were like, "No, this isn't enough stuff."
That is funny.
Oh, that's funny as shit. Oh,
Not enough options.
oh, that's funny.
We should
That
just
is
like,
funny.
you know what, man? We should just have like a segment every week. We'll do like Tales from the Squat, and we'll just fucking like.
Why not? That'd be good. You
Yeah.
could that could be your opening thing or the end of the day. You know how like Garrison Keeler would always end with the Lake Wobegon stories or something like that. That could be your closing thing.
Yeah.
And then Bubby showed up and knocked on the door.
Yeah, there you go.
What's up?
And then Ben
Yeah.
Johnson did something fucking stupid.
Speaking of like the end,
Yeah.
your I guess your sign off, statement or whatever. So, I guess I've been posting a couple of the Neil deGrasse and like his stuff. I don't know if you guys did you
Neil
watch
deGrasse Tyson
his
or whatever.
his like whole top or where he was rating like some of the most famous sci-fi movies. Did you guys click that link and watch that? It was pretty interesting because he had a lot of them based upon science, and some of it was like the I guess you have entertainment versus science, and he would give his opinion on it, which is pretty interesting. But at the end, the last couple ones I'm watching, I'll see him kind of jump in and be like, and keep looking up. So do you ever watch
Jackrabbit's regretting giving me admin access.
remember like it was at the end, like PBS at the end of the night, and there's a guy, Jack Horkheiser or whatever, and he would have like a whole little like 5-minute skit.
Oh my god, Mike! I'm like, as soon as you mentioned that name, the theme music went through my head.
Right, and so he would end everything. He would talk about what's going on he would give something about the sky or something about science, astronomy, and stuff like that. And the end of every one of his segments was, and keep looking up. So I'm wondering if he like actually, got that from him. What the hell? The Jack Horkheiser. I forget what the segment he had on PBS, but it was again, after every single segment he would say that, and now I see deGrasse and he's doing it too. So I don't know if he's just stole it from him or what. Jack
Also,
Horkheiser.
another thing you guys should think about. You should, if you have any like sound drops, right? So
Okay, that's
like
funny.
yeah, just think about it, like any clips, for example, that fish head guy saying it's a trap, or warriors come out and play, yeah. So just let me know and I can add them to the sound drop over here and we can play them. Just to think, it's something to think about.
Now is that something where
I think
everybody
it'd be
can start
funny
hitting?
If you had Lebowski saying, "You're not wrong, Walter. You're an asshole," something like that.
That's a good one. I get that.
I guess.
Man, I'm gonna steal that for work.
yeah. My pick was good last week. It was real good.
Oh, did you win on the Phillies?
I won on the
Yeah, you
Phillies
did.
last week. Yeah, and
Nice.
it was a really good day. I'm trying to find other companies to mention. Fanatics is involved in everything. We love them.
Yeah,
Caesars,
That's
FanDuel,
one of those things
DraftKings.
right
If anybody's listening, we'll take a free hat or a free T-shirt. I don't know if
Well,
I had any picks
have you
today,
done?
though.
Oh wait, did they? there was a rain delay last night, tied at an 11th inning, and I was like, all right, I'm done with this. Like
They won. They won 5-3.
I would,
Okay. They because they had a little rough week after the London. It wasn't
Well, they didn't win every game, but they won a few.
They lost a series to the Red Sox. I don't know. They like the hitting wasn't there. It was just they lost like 9. They gave up 9 runs. It just seemed like a really off week after that trip.
They're cooling off. They're cooling off a little.
Well, I'm wondering if it was just a trip.
I'm going with
jet lag.
I'm going with jet lag.
Yeah, that could be.
How's it? Though, what they played the Mets. Who they play in England? The Mets.
The Mets. They
Yeah.
split.
Yeah.
So how
And they
the
should have won that second game.
How
But
are the Mets playing since they came back? If they're playing well, then it's just the Phillies hitting their midseason.
I think the Mets are pretty bad this year.
they're really bad. Well, they're bad this year.
I mean, I get
Well,
one of, I get the business aspect of wanting to expand your viewer base, but Jesus, I mean, like the idea of sending an NFL team to fucking Europe is, to me, absolutely fucking out of control. I mean, it's just insane.
But that's once a
That's
week,
one month.
right? So that actually, listen, you get once a week, and they're saying like if they do that and they do it like once a week and they send them to Europe, especially if it's like a central or a West Coast team, then you give them, make sure they have a bye week the week after. And this is a perfect way for the NFL to extend the season another week and then give everybody 2 bye weeks or whatever, like, to try and like incorporate a couple of the European teams. But for baseball, it's interesting. Actually, Bryce Harper said this. He was like, listen, if you're going to do this, and if anybody's thinking about it, like you got to send like 4 teams to like London and have them all play each other for like a whole week, and have them all be there and get acclimated and do everything like that. And when they're all done, then all of them come back, and then you might send another, batch over. So you're not sending them over for just 2 games and have to fly back. So there's probably ways they can do it. It's just, yeah, it'll be interesting to see, because like somebody from like LA trying to fly to London for a game is just like, that's a challenge. And did you see the
When
streaker
you,
that got tased during a backflip? The streaker
that was funny as shit.
in a game. I was yesterday or Friday. But a streaker.
Wow, that
came
is
and tried to
a
do
that is a
backflip.
fucking throwback. Streakers at fucking like sporting events. Jesus Christ!
That's really funny.
Oh my god.
All right. That's ended the sports segment of the
No,
program.
but I am going to San Francisco, and I'm going to go see the A's. This is the last time they play in the Coliseum, and then and we're going to see the
Oh
Giants.
wow.
So like
We're gonna-
betting against the A's might be a good call. Just betting against the A's.
So
Because they're
so
terrible.
So normally I buy tickets ahead of time, right? And the Giants I'm going to have to, because they do well and they're. But I was like, all right, well, let's get tickets for the A's. And then I'm looking, and like they get like 3,000 people a game. Like I'm like, and like the day we're going, it's $2 tickets, $1 hot dogs. I'm like, well, let's just walk up and see what it's doing. It's a noon game on Wednesday, July 24th. So
By the
but I
time you
was
get
like,
there, they'll be paying you to go in.
which
Right.
is fine. I'll take that, because it's I'm covering the entire trip, because one kid's unemployed and wants to bring their significant other. So Robert is paying for his ticket, and if I can, I'm going to find out where he's talking. He's given a talk about astrophysics in the Netherlands, so I'll try to share that with you.
Wow,
Anyway,
that's cool.
yeah, and we rented a B&B, and India's aunt and uncle were here last weekend and helped us figure out where to stay. So it's going to be a good trip, Looking forward to it. And then I'll get a list of Jackrabbit, all the places he did stupid shit on the motorcycle, and we'll go visit.
Wait,
him.
what?
Oh, I could name a couple of those.
Yeah, I mean, were you guys in San Francisco doing stupid shit on motorcycles? Because I could go visit those and take
Oh yeah. Oh yeah.
Jackrabbit Road
No, I
19.
Probably shouldn't name a couple of those because
That's funny.
There's still warrants.
No, Crash Habit. That was the nickname. That was the nickname.
Crash Habit. Crash Habit.
Crash Rabbit.
Yeah. Yeah, well, actually, though, there's Bernal Heights. Actually, that's a good place where I crashed. That's a nice little trip. Go up
Alright.
on the mountain, do a little turner. That's a nice one.
Nice.
Actually, Oakland Hills. Actually, I crashed there. Crashed in Oakland Hills. That's a nice place to visit. Yep, for sure.
Okay, check
Yeah,
that out.
had somebody on the back of my bike on that one too. Yeah,
Ooh,
that
how were
was,
you guys?
that was a real good one.
Were you wearing helmets or were you being stupid?
Yeah, no, we had helmets on, and it was a low speed crash, so it was no big deal. But
No big
yeah, but definitely nothing I'm proud of.
So
Just thinking about my racing story and how fucking hilarious that is. Jesus Christ. Oh, Jackrabbit, I heard you raced around. I heard you race motorcycles. Yes, I had I had half of an amateur race where I crashed and broke my collarbone. That was
Ow.
my motorcycle experience.
That sounds so familiar.
After
Didn't you break your collarbone also one time on near the South Street Bridge?
that was the first. That was my maiden voyage.
So you have broken collarbone stories.
I have many. I can't
Holy
remember
crap.
how many times, but I think it's 5 or more that I broke my collarbones and both sides.
Jeez
That was
Louise.
just,
God.
I had such a great time the first. I just couldn't. I was addicted. That's something I'm very good at. You know what I mean? That's like
All these were
Yeah.
on motorcycles or just in general?
No, the first one was a bicycle. Yeah, that was you just you're kind of you're easing yourself into the whole
Work
thing.
your way up.
You don't want to. Right, exactly.
hey, Jack
Starting
Rabbit,
small.
I have to drop. Or if I drop, is that going to end the stream or are you still in?
Well, I mean, it's gonna end the excitement. It's gonna end the attraction. I mean,
Well,
of course,
drop
that's
too.
why
I have to.
people
I have
tune
to-
in
Will
is
not
for
be a king of the beast.
Fraser
Hey,
show.
Fraser,
Peace.
Fraser, before you drop, I left a link for you in there. If you're in the Netherlands and you're in Maastricht or whatever it's called, you have to go see that crazy bookstore.
Oh, awesome! I'll send that to Robert. He leaves tonight. That's who
Yeah.
I got to leave to talk to. We're having a video call. Thanks, George. That's awesome.
Yeah.
He's giving a talk and then he's going to stay there for a couple days. So, I think he already looked at this place and wants to go there. So, thank you. All right, girls. I love you. Have a wonderful Father's Day, non-Father's Day
All right,
weekend.
likewise.
Heat
Great to see you,
dome
brother.
next week, which just basically means we're gonna all cook and fry.
Yeah.
See you,
All
Fraser.
right, peace.
Pool's open though. If
We're
you
going
want
to the Navy Yard to
pool
see
bar.
Paradox tomorrow. I don't know who else is.
Yeah, I think
Yeah, isn't
me, Gordo.
that's the plan, right?
You going, John?
Yeah, we're going. Yeah, we'll be down there.
Yeah, it should be
You have,
cool.
do you have my number right? So we could text or whatever.
I know not off the top of my head. Hold on, let me see.
Oh, I can't remember. I'll put it in the chat.
240-3663
That's it. Yeah.
that I just announced to the
Oh,
world.
Jesus. I'm gonna have to
don't
fucking
care.
take that thing down. Yeah, I mean, it's unlikely that
The
yeah,
outside chance that anybody ever will watch this. That you know.
but still, let's try to not share personal details. Oy.
Sorry, I forgot that this is a.
It's not like we're broadcasting our porn habits here.
Well,
good
you
that
got
you're so
the
relaxed.
just don't forget you got the private chat. So you can always-
Gordo, you
It's
still
good that
on?
you're so relaxed.
Where
No,
Jackrabbit? You messed with the setting again, so we still don't see him.
yeah, he's still there.
No, but I don't see him. I don't see him up in the represented in an image anywhere. There you go.
There we go.
So Gordo, you were going to talk about your book.
He, she, and it.
That sounds about right.
Is there a little bit of a lag, I guess?
Seems like it might have been a little bit little ameliorated. So I can hear you all right now.
Oh, good. So yeah, he, she, and it. it was interesting hearing you guys talk about the utopian aspect of her previous book. This one, a little darker. It's 1991. There was a nuclear bomb attack, destroyed Jerusalem and most of the Middle East. And the world's been restructured. Canada and America are known as Norica. And there's these corporate interests and domed cities. She has to travel between locations, and she puts on mesh gloves because the thieves use lasers to cut your hand off to get your bag. And everybody, when they travel, they drape a black cloth over their head so they disguise all their features. And this is how people move around in the city. But it's pretty dark, but I like it. You know, I can't remember why I put it down originally, but it's complicated. It's interesting. I think it should be ranked in there. You know, your Paradox was on earlier, and he said no, that it should be for her. Her book in the ranking should be Woman Against Time. But then he also told a story about how she didn't want to talk about that book. She wanted to focus on her more recent writing. So it's an interesting question. You know, I'm going to try to press on, try to finish it. So it's good. The bag of books delivered.
Well, you said, is this the one you said you don't want us to read it or suggest us reading it? You said before you started talking about it earlier in the earlier thing. Was that a different book?
Well, I mean, I'd hate for book club to turn into that. You know what I mean? Like, that would be like the worst. You know what I mean? Like, if we started saying, well, we should all read this same book. I mean, where would book club be if that's what we devolved into? But
I read a couple chapters of it. I thought it was pretty good. I
Which
haven't
one?
finished it, but yeah, obviously. But,
which one?
The He, She, and It.
Did you? Oh,
Yeah,
awesome.
yeah. Well, Sarah has a copy of it, so I picked it up. So I got to the chapter where the grandmother was telling the story.
Okay.
It's like the third chapter, so I didn't finish that chapter yet. Yeah.
And was it chapter 2 that she went back into the past?
No. She's still. There's like dealing with like her husband being a jerk and her kid, that kind of stuff.
Yeah, like they had a divorce proceeding. That was chapter 1.
Yeah, and then 2, I thought was similar, but yeah, maybe she was about to go back.
Yeah, she's.
Because then the grandmother's telling the story. So yeah, that was definitely.
Well, somewhere in there, you're going to encounter it. She goes into like the distant past. And the he, she, and it aspect of it, I guess today, the first thought is that, it's, but I don't think it's so much about the gender identity as it is like a cybernetic organism, or, like at what point do you become human? I think is more what the title reflects.
Oh, interesting. Okay, so it's not so much a gender bending thing. It's more about
Yeah, it's 1991, right? But like we look at these books and say, all right, well, what did you say about the future? How predictive were you of the future? Well, in 1991, she said we would be using the net, right? And I think that term might have been around, but how many times do you see these writers make up a new word and then they end up being wrong? So everybody's on the net, and that's how people connect and all. So, I guess you could kind of see it coming in 91, but her renderings or whatever of this internet are pretty accurate, I think, to how we use it. Did you get to any of that, John?
Sorry, I got to mute because I have a neighbor who's got. He decided his dog needs to be tied out front all day.
Oh, no.
and bark at everybody. So
Wow.
it's
Wow. City living. Gotta love it.
I live in what? A dystopia. Yes.
or as some describe it, Philadelphia.
That's
It
just a
could be
general.
worse, it
That's
could
a
be
general
Connecticut.
people suck thing. That's all that is.
I don't know. I just feel like
Lazy
it's
and
kind of funny.
irresponsible.
You could just be like, advertising Philly's dystopianness, like the qualities of dystopia that Philly expresses. Obviously we start off like in our lovely tour of Kensington and Allegheny, and then we move on to
12 Monkeys.
yeah.
How many dystopian movies were filmed here?
It just happened to be just an accident.
Starting with Rocky. One.
I mean, there are definitely some there are definitely some scenes in
Rocky's
Rocky.
dystopian, I think.
It is. There are definitely some scenes of Philly in Rocky that are very dystopian. I'm thinking this one where he's just like walking on the subway. The L is behind him, and it's just like he's walking through trash. It's like, welcome to Philly.
What was that movie, The Philadelphia Experiment? How about that one? You ever see that one? That one's where the guys there's like a time travel experiment being done on this boat, like this Navy ship in the Delaware River, and they end up like people get fused into the freaking boat.
Oh yeah, I remember that.
It's called The Philadelphia Experiment.
Night of the Living Dead took place in Philly.
It's got Michael
too.
Pear in it.
Did it?
Yeah.
Well, didn't the Blob, right? Wasn't the Blob in the?
Oh yeah, that's right outside of Philly, right?
Was that Westchester? No. Wait, what was it? Where was that?
Phoenixville.
Phoenixville.
Yeah.
So you have Tishi in it, man. It'll be interesting to see. Maybe I'll read the other one because, with our little made up rules for our top 100, there's only one book from each writer. So for her, this is going to be a tough one, right? Because got the Jackrabbit thing, but I don't know. I feel like this one might be a better book. She wrote it, 30 years later. I would hope that if I wrote a book 30 years later, that it would be the better book. But I guess it remains to be seen. Well, I'm happy to hear you're reading it too, John, because now I got more enthusiasm.
Wait, it's really 3 years after
certainly didn't
Women
hate
on the
it.
Edge of Time? Holy shit.
I thought it was pretty good. I think she's a good writer too.
Wow.
Yeah, I think it was 60.
Yeah, I mean, like, you the thing is, if you, oh, Jesus Christ. Yeah, I mean, like, you're reviewing Woman on the Edge of Time and just kind of like the idealism and like the, utopianism, right? I mean, of that. I mean, it was like, she was probably really young. That was like that was the zeitgeist of the time, right? I mean, just imagining all these wonderful things if you just like left behind like the horrors of civilization. And it's like, yeah, sure. Like, let's not really consider how we're going to get there. Let's just imagine how wonderful this stuff can be. And then like, here you got her like 20, 30 years later, and she's just like, yeah, not so much. And, and now it's like, the reality, the horror of reality, it's like I'm friends with her on Facebook and all she does is, post about fucking her cats. I mean, that's basically it. She's like, she's just living out there and like, in some wooded area with her cats, and that's all she really posts about. It's like, yeah, it's great, So
I'm looking at all our books,
yeah, you gotta
and like, I mean, on average, she's got like a 4 stars on Goodreads for a lot of these. She's got a lot of stuff, but she's got a lot of books like on poems and other.
Yeah,
Like
poetry.
sci-fi is not her only genre. It looks like she writes about a whole bunch of different stuff.
mm-hmm.
Well, I'm psyched to see you guys tomorrow, man.
So I guess we need to decide on what time we want to head down there. Like I said, I think there's like at like 5. I looked it up. Like 3, there's a performance. At 5, there's a Indonesian martial arts display, and then there's like, I'm trying to still figure out. This website honestly is not too clear about. like whether there's just like available food. There's a couple vendors where you have to look like so you have to pre-order some boxes, but I'm like, okay, are you gonna just have random? You're gonna be able to just walk up to some of these tents and everything are in stalls. Are they gonna have like food? Jack Rabbit, do you know anything about that?
No. I mean, I haven't really talked to him about any of this stuff. I've heard a little bit about like what the prep like going into it is and stuff, but I don't know anything about the show or the venue. So sorry about that.
All good. We'll go. So
What time are you thinking of heading down there, John?
I don't know. I guess the performance is at like what 7 or something.
7:30.
Yeah, so I thought we'd head down there a little earlier than that.
Like 6.
Yeah.
So I think I'm gonna
yeah.
try to get there a
If we
little
decide to
earlier.
go down there earlier than that, I'll let you know. I'm not sure. Yeah.
Yeah, I gotta get my wife in place.
Because as I thought the website was pretty vague as far as like what actually was going to happen down there, whether there'd be food available, whether there'd be a seat available, whether there'd be anything. You know,
There was like, I think a lot of it's lawn, and that's free. And then if you wanted like chairs in a reserved area, like a VIP thing, it was like $50 a chair.
that
And
was
I don't really know if that was like means you got like
we
certain
weren't going to
tables
do
of it.
that. Yeah.
So I think it's, but the question is like, all right, if it's lawn, like, are we bringing a blanket? Are we bringing a chair, a folding chair or something to sit on? So I guess there was a little bit of that question. But I'll bring a couple different options.
I got to boogie, you guys. Just text me.
All right,
when
man,
you
kick
get
some
that
ass.
close to it. I'm golfing tomorrow, but I'll probably be able to make it down afterwards.
All right, we'll
Nice.
connect when you
Love
get
to see you,
there.
Matt.
Cool.
Yeah,
All right, man.
you guys
Have
see ya.
fun.
We'll be there.
All right. Well, seems like we're wrapping up,
All right,
so we
boys.
got to end. We got to end with a story. So, I got. So here's the story. It is about Ben Johnson, and I can only remember a small piece of it, John. So I'd love to, hopefully you can kind of expand on it.
I'll
But
try.
it was so we were it was the second floor of the squat, or no, it was third floor of the squat, so top floor, and Ben had taken some acid
Oh,
and he was gibbering insanely, and just decided he was going to pee in the
he was
hallway.
being in the hallway.
Yeah, he was peeing in the hallway. Do you remember what the surrounding circumstances were for that?
No, he took way too much acid. That more than like most people take. I do remember that. And he started quoting Johnny Dangerously, I believe, and peeing in the hallway.
Was that why he was saying bastages? He was just like mumbling, "You bastages, you bastages, you fucking bastages," and then he peed in the hallway. Yeah,
and he was peeing in the hallway. I think at some point we did kick him out because it was just like, I mean, you just can't like pee everywhere in the house. And I thought we kicked him out. We also kicked Molly Schaefer's brother out because he walked into the room of pee. Remember the room of pee?
Oh, yeah. Of course.
He walked in there. There was like all like basically stacked bottles of pee in that room because there was no plumbing. And this was
people would
and he
pee in
walked
bottles
in there and just spilled these bottles everywhere, releasing a smell that I will never ever match. I swear I've been through the worst parts of the subway. I have sat next to guys who poop themselves. I've never smelled anything like this in my life.
I actually
story. We kicked that kid out.
As I recall, Beelzebub showed up. And was like, "This is an awesome odor. Let me just grab this real quick. You guys have really come up with something special here."
The devil's
gonna
perfume.
pop one back. Just gonna pop one back to hell, but Could smell this from there. Figured I'd come by, see what was going on. Pick some.
No,
pick
no
it
wonder
up.
I like was this tall and weighed like 160 pounds back then.
Yeah. So, yeah. I mean that. Yeah. That. So it was actually like it had been a bathroom, and it was literally filled with milk crates filled with like bottles, like 40 ounces of human urine.
Yeah.
That had been. So this one of the things that I like about the story is that like anybody who could possibly think of romanticizing our time in that
Yeah.
squat
No.
is clearly fucking full of shit.
Oh,
Because
That's what it reminds me of. I remind like a room full with bottles of pee. Of like The Aviator, Howard Hughes.
oh
Remember
yeah,
when he
it's so
started
funny
to
that
go
you mentioned.
nuts? And he was like
Yeah,
all like secluded, and he was in his own movie room, and he
Yeah.
was just peeing a bottle, leave them all around. I'm like, "Oh, that's a good look. Yeah.
Eccentric.
I think of the Mr. Burns like when The Simpsons did the spoof of The Aviator when they had Mr. Burns doing that.
I didn't see that one.
yeah.
Oh,
No,
it's
I
good.
never saw that one. Yeah,
And Mr.
so
Burns. Yeah.
yeah, there was definitely a lot of well, this is what happens, right? I mean, this is what happens when you have no oversight, no accountability, when you're just kind of like, when you're a human being and you're isolated in your kind of little fantasy world, which was definitely what that house was, I think, for sure. Yeah. So lots of fun, crazy stories, and some of them good. There are definitely some good ones. Maybe next week we'll have to come up with a good story, but that was definitely a don't try this at home, kids.
Yeah. Yeah.
Right. All right, boys. Time to be productive.
Talk to you guys tomorrow.
All right, guys.
Love y'all.
Peace for you.
Bye.
Well,
Bye, man.
let's sync up about when we're the real time when we think